before taking Levofloxacin, because that's the name of my poison. Like so many, I was super happy, super active. I did mountaineering. I reached summit of 6,000 meters high. I ran marathons in under 4 hours. So that was my condition until end of October 2016. I can only say that was a previous life. And I have this little pain in the left testicle. It's not going away. Maybe I should go and see a doctor. Diagnosed an epididymitis. Decided to give me levofloxacin. And I said, by the way, I'm sporty. Are you sure there's no problem? And they looked at me in the eyes and he said, there's no problem. I give it all the time. And I was just like, oh, okay. And if it's just side effect, you stop the drug and then you're back to normal. I took the drug for 20 days, didn't feel any problem whatsoever. A few days after, I went to run. And the following morning, I felt my tendons, Achilles tendons were terrible. Gradually, I was more and more tired. 6 weeks after taking the drug, suddenly couldn't sleep, muscle pain, burning pain. I was literally shaking in my bed. I just had no words for what happened then. I said, something is wrong. I put my symptoms, and then I saw fibromyalgia or fluoroquinolone. And then I just like, what is a fluoroquinolone? And I said, this is it. It's only at the 7th month that I really became like a statue. I was hard like a statue everywhere, in every muscle of my body. You stand up, it's like going through a wall of concrete. I have the proof, the entire proof of the before and after the drug on the quality of my sperm. I was 45% good quality motility, and 6 months later, after the drug, 0%. 3.5 years out, I have muscle pain throughout, the shoulders being the upper arms, being the upper back, the middle back, the lower back, the spine. All of this is neuromuscular damage. I have to go through pain every day, and it's really bad pain. Believe me, I am not ashamed to say that this is genocide. The level of torture, it's just a crime against humanity to put people in that level of pain. You can't describe this pain because it's not natural. People all around the world that don't know each other tell you the same story. It's all there. The truth is all there. This pain, which is so abnormal, is so crushing sometimes. So crushing. I told the bastard that did this to me, you murdered me. They put a neurotoxic, a genotoxic, and a cytotoxic drug in my body. Can you believe this? No other drugs in the world has more black box warnings and is still out there given like candies. This is outrageous. Ignorance is not an excuse. You should have known. Doctors, we are waking up. My message is time for you to wake up, because we won't forget non-poison, non-floxed people. You are on the same boat as us. There is a bottle somewhere with your name on a prescription of fluoroquinolones waiting for you.
Hello everyone watching, thank you. Welcome to RxPilled. This channel is dedicated to discussing the very real dangers that revolve around the pharmaceutical approach of medicine. In these sections, we interview those who have been harmed or their loved ones have been harmed by these chemicals and have found the courage to come up here and share their truth with us to warn you of the dangers that lie ahead. Here with me now joining is Robin. Thank you, Robin, for coming here.
Hello, Ido.
So we've been talking a little bit before this interview on and off. So I'm really glad to finally have you on here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, as you know, it's not an easy exercise, but we have to do. I watched a couple of previous interviews you have conducted. I think what you're doing is essential, and I'm very, very happy what you're doing is. We need to all come together and speak up and not let this carry on.
So again, everybody tuning in and seeing this, this is how the message gets spread. By people finding the will somehow. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard to put your face out there. I say it every time when I made my first interview. It wasn't easy. But this is how the message gets spread. Because of all the misinformation out there, you just can't trust what you receive from your health administration. And you need to listen to the people who've experienced this firsthand. So this is extremely important. So anybody who has been hurt by this drug or by any other drug, please contact us.
So let me introduce myself a little bit. Before taking Levofloxacin, because that's the name of my poison, the third or fourth generation of fluoroquinolones. Well, like so many, I was super happy, super active. To illustrate how active I was, I did mountaineering. I reached summit of 6,000 meters high. I ran marathons in under 4 hours. I could run 10 kilometers in 44 minutes. Okay, it's not the 27 minutes world record, but it's just double time of the world record. I used to go for very long walk. I did ultra trail running, 100K. Where I live is a race. It's called the 100K Oxfam race. I traveled all around the world since I'm, a teenager. I qualified as I studied in Canada. I qualified as a teacher. I worked in the UK. I worked for an association in South America. I worked in Uganda, in East Africa. Those people are amazing, believe me. I wish Africa can resist against the drug because they have a lot of common sense. And now I'm in Asia, in Hong Kong. So I'm very active. I love meeting people. I love learning, exchanging, talking. I love sport. This is the most difficult thing in my life, is to not be able to do sport like I used to. Yes, so that was my condition until end of October 2016. So we are in April 2020. So we are reaching the 3.5 years mark. And wow, I can only say that was a previous life. And personally, I think on my grave, I want the day I reacted to the drug. Now I know I reacted on that day that I reached my threshold. It was 5 days after starting the drug. So it was on 2nd November 2016. Oh, the doctor didn't tell me I shouldn't be walking, shouldn't be in the sun. I was walking, I was in the sun. I reacted on the 5th day, and but I didn't know. And it lasted only maybe 20 minutes, and then things were pretty fine. So what was my diagnosis? Why did I go to see this urologist? So I am in October 2016, and I have this little pain in the left testicle. Little pain, and then 3-4 days, and I'm just like, wow, it's not going away. Maybe I should go and see a doctor. And also, with my wife, we wanted to have a kid. So I just thought, I'm going to do what we do in China, is a checkup, see more or less if you're, the quality of your sperm, if everything is fine. And I just thought, at the meantime, I will talk about my little pain in my left testicle. talking about the sperm is very important because I can tell you straight away, I have the proof, the entire proof of the before and after the drug on the quality of my sperm.
Oh.
I was 45% good quality motility, and 6 months later, after the drug, 0%, from 45% to 0% active and good shape. What on earth has happened between the two? Just the levofloxacin, just the fluoroquinolone Hiroshima bomb in my body, damaging to my sperm, and not, of course, not only that, as you can imagine. So anyway, so I did this test, and after doing this test, I said, oh, it's okay, you can go ahead. Normally, you won't need IVF or whatever because you are above the good threshold. So for your testicle pain, let me see. And then he diagnosed an epididymitis. Now, what is epididymitis? Well, we can just say it's a kind of a super urinary tract infection for men. Well, of course, they are scared that the infection can go up to your lungs or brain, and then you can die. So he decided to give me levofloxacin. And with a super NSAID, which is Arcoxia, which is a very strong NSAID. As we all know, the mix is not good at all. This is just can multiply by I don't know how many thousand times the power of levofloxacin. Anyway, I take the drug, I go down the building, and then I do, because I don't just try people like this, I do a mini research. And this is exactly when my life went wrong. Because I did a research on the phone and I didn't go home and take the laptop and take half an hour. You see, rushing in our lives. I didn't take half an hour, risk levofloxacin. No, I was on the street in a rush, didn't want to miss work. And what did I see? I saw that they were side effects, but just like Doliprane, like paracetamol, like any drug. So I just thought, well, I can see neuropathy, but it's 0.1%. All the figures I could see was 0.1%. So the only information I saw briefly on the street was just like any other drug. That's it. But still something in my gut for the first time. So for the first time ever in my life, I went back in the building and I say, I want to see the doctor again. And I saw him again. I said, by the way, sorry to disturb, but I just checked the drug and the NSAID there, the Arcoxia. It's very, very strong. This is normally for rheumatism. It's very, very strong. I see in France, because as you can hear, I'm French, they don't give it easily because it's super strong. So I don't think I want to take this anyway, so I can give it back to you. And about the antibiotic, I'm sporty. I told you I run. I do all of this sport, tennis, etc., hiking. Are you sure there's no problem? And they looked at me in the eyes and he said, and I know he was sincere. He looked at me and said, "There's no problem. I give it all the time." I remember those words. I give it all the time. There is no problem. And I was just like, oh, okay. That's what I just wanted to hear. You give it all the time and no one is dead or no one has a horrible problem, so then fine. And if it's just side effect, you stop the drug. And then, I don't know, 1 month, 3 months later, max, you're back to normal. Why would it be differently? Because it's fluoroquinolones, and with fluoroquinolones, everything is different.
These things that you've been saying, you've made some really good points. So first of all, how many times do people hear this? The doctor repeating the same old sentence. I prescribed it so many times for years. I never had a problem. It's again the same thing I've heard with a drug that injured me. And it's just this, kind of blank statement that they say, because people need to understand that after you go through this, initial interaction, you get prescribed, you take the medication. A lot of people get hurt. The majority of their symptoms manifest after exposure. There is no proper follow-up in almost all the cases. Doctors don't follow up with you months after you stopped. Some of them, most of them, almost all of them are not aware of damage happening afterwards as well. And so they don't know that these things are occurring properly because they're not properly investigating. And so, yeah, they're disconnected. So they'll tell you, oh yeah, it's safe. I gave it to so many people. And another point you made, which is I had this feeling, right? I had this intuition that this drug may be harmful for me. And that's why you came back the building. It's something I hear from almost everybody who gets hurt, that people kind of feel reluctant to take it.
You know, one thing is that when he told me this, then I didn't take it reluctantly at all. After this, because, you know, then they come back with nocebo effect. There was no nocebo effect at all. When I went back home, when I took it, you have to understand, I was worried. It was in my testicle. I wanted to have a baby. I said, this is what I need. No problem. He has given it. So when I took it, I didn't take it like being scared or worried. I took it in total faith that it was going to do good and save me. That's very important.
When I got prescribed Cipro myself in 2015, at the end of 2015, I had prostatitis. And yeah, I was just in the second year of medical school. We didn't touch pharmacology yet at all. And what I knew about antibiotics basically is that they're great, they save lives, they're effective, and maybe they can cause some issues here and there, but nothing serious. So I didn't even look at the prescription that I got. So I was in pain. I wanted it gone. I was studying for my exams. I went to my urologist, and he just, you know, did the prostate examination and said, oh yeah, it's inflamed. Great. Take this drug. Take it for, I don't know what it was, 10 days, something like that, twice a day, and everything's going to be fine. And I did it. And I remember, only looking back now, that while I was on it, I used to be also very physically active, and I used to work out and train a lot. Working out was my life. I was a very active person as well. And I remember working out at the park, doing calisthenics and doing pull-ups. And then I remember in my second set or something like that, I ripped like a piece of my latissimus muscle. And I had like literal fibers that you can feel under the skin that were ripped. And I didn't even make the connection that it's because of this drug. I just thought, oh, well, maybe I'm out of shape or something like that. But I didn't even make the connection. Luckily, back then for me, that's all that happened. But yeah, I did. Most people don't question these things too much.
The doctor said, you know, it's just an antibiotic, and just an antibiotic, just an antibiotic. But as we know, as I know now, it is not. It is not, because I can show you the study, for instance, is levofloxacin has been used for lung cancer. Yeah, it's chemo drug. It's a failed chemotherapy drug. I wish I had been told that what I was taking was a failed chemo drug and not really an antibiotic, because of course, believe me, anything you tell me tendon, maybe your tendon will maybe rupture. I don't take it. You tell me about any kind of permanent or irreversible damage. I'm not stupid. I don't take the risk.
Exactly, but they don't. I mean, again, it's the same experience I've had when I was questioning after I was already more educated. When I took the drug that changed my life, I asked these questions very specifically. I said, listen, I've heard some things from people on the internet saying that, you know, irreversible things are happening from this. Is it true? Is it not? I don't know what to believe in, because when you do the basic search on the internet, also, when you look at studies with fluoroquinolones right now, there are a lot of studies out there right now that do, you know, it's not hearsay, people. So, I mean, use your Google and you will easily find just how toxic these compounds can be. But with other drugs, for example, the drug that I took, Accutane, these studies don't exist. They don't exist. You can go through PubMed, okay, and that's what I did. I used so-called reputable sources to trust my information, because that's how I was educated. I didn't think that all these sources will be compromised and faulty and full of lies, but apparently they were. And every single study that I've read, safe, effective, no long-term complications. And I remember there were lawsuits about the drug that I took in America about intestinal issues. And I read a huge study that took a sample of almost 50,000 people, okay, and disproved any link whatsoever between exposure to digestive issues. And so you trust these things. I mean, if you can't trust articles that are published by esteemed individuals in the field, what can you trust, right? It's,
you know, the other thing, when I was very, very young, when I was in my 20s, my mom was a nurse, and we had the doctors as friends, and that also convinced me that there was no problem, if you see what I mean. I thought they knew what they were doing. And also, I joined a couple of drug testing. So I was the guinea pig, but it was for like kind of a blood thinner, nothing major. But I was, as a guinea pig, I saw the testing, and I thought they were doing a really good job. So how on earth, 20 years before, I was in a test, in a lab test, and I saw all the, how cautious they were, all the tests they did. How on earth a fluoroquinolone can be on the market if they have conducted any kind of proper test? The answer is because lies and hiding the truth from doctors. However, now the truth is out there, and doctors, at least since 2016, the FDA has been very clear. You put it several times at the beginning of interviews. Since that date, they cannot say they didn't know. And remember, it was in May 2016, and I took the drug in November 2016. So I consider that I should have never been floxed, and I consider the doctor is more responsible than the lab. And by the way, it's all generic, so there's no lab to sue, there's no lab to complain against. And Bayer came at the public hearing in 2018 in London, at the EMA public hearing, and they say, we are sorry. You know what? Bayer has been sending letters in the United States, in Germany, throughout, to doctors saying, you need to be careful with fluoroquinolones. Are doctors reading? Are doctors paying attention? No, because they are just busy making money, seeing you for 5 minutes. And when I say that this fluoroquinolone story encapsulates everything wrong, healthcare, even society as a whole, if we can put this scandal out there fully, then we can change the paradigm. But you know what? I have a friend, he's from Switzerland. He managed to put the fluoroquinolones at the 7:30 p.m. news on RTBF in Belgium, on TV5 Monde, which is an international channel in French. It's there. It was there at major mainstream news on TV. Are people reacting? Are people taking this into account? No. And doctors still today, because I'm part of a big forum in France, and I can't say more, but there's just, lawyers, something like this. At this moment, we still have people being floxed in February, March 2020. And the people, 1 day, 2 days after reacting to the drug, they go back to their doctors and they say, by the way, I reacted. And by the way, it's exactly what is said on internet. And the doctors say, no, cannot be. And you know what they do really as a last resort threat? They say, I think you should really go and see a psychiatrist or something like this. And this is the psychiatrist blackmailing. When really they run out of all arguments, then you must be wrong. You must be wrong. And it is rare, very rare, incredibly rare. It's so rare that it doesn't exist. But you have all the EMA warnings. You have all the FDA warnings. Is it 7 or 8 black box warning on this drug? No other drugs in the world has more black box warnings, and is still out there given like candies. This is outrageous.
And there's no excuse. The doctors are just not doing their due diligence. And as you said, they want easy, fast results, something that is strong enough that can kill any infection, whatever, I'll give this. And probably it'll be okay. Probably it'll be fine. And if it's not, well, not my problem. And you just encounter this ultimate form of gaslighting that is so typical of the medical establishment, which is, it must be in your head, right? And what are the chances that it happened to you? And doesn't matter what evidence you present them with, doesn't matter what you have to show you're just led down the psychiatric route if they, if the issue is not something that they can solve. And that's just something that is happening too commonly again and again.
Yeah, but to me, they didn't do it too much because one, I am lucky I didn't get too much of the anxiety, just a couple of weeks. And I guess being a teacher and being in contact with more than 2,000 students, with parents, being in my community for years, you see some kind of status. You're not just from nowhere. People know the way you are, and you have plenty of people that can testify. And also, I think I am a man. They have a tendency to be harsher on women because there's this misogynistic approach of it's all in your head. Why with men, like I was seriously fit, and I think it destroys people who are actually fit even more. The thing is, if you don't have any infection, if you are actually fine, it will destroy you because, as you explained before, it attacks the enzyme that is very close to our DNA. And so if you use the drug is not a problem. The atomic bomb is not the problem. It's the people using it. So the atomic bomb comes in your body. Yes, if it has to fight something really, really, really serious. And then it's busy killing the problem. But then if you have just a UTI or actually nothing, because I didn't finish my story, but if you have actually nothing, then it just goes for you. It goes there, I have to kill something. It's Terminator. It has to kill something. So if it's not something bad, then it will be something good. But it's there. It's programmed to kill something. So it has to kill something. It's just mad. So if I carry on with the story, when I saw the urologist, gave me this, I started to take the drug. On the 5th day, when I was walking with 2 friends, for 15 minutes, I didn't feel well at all. And I just thought that was the infection getting serious. And I was bothered by the fact that he tells me that I have an infection and he doesn't do any urine test, any blood test, no test. And I'm just like, my logic says that you should have the proof that I have an infection. It can be an inflammation. Then later, a doctor in France told me, he's crazy, the doctor who gave you this, because it could be a fungus, could be an inflammation. It could be many things, So to conclude that it is epididymitis straight away, it's just really laziness, pure laziness. And so on the 6th day, I went to the hospital because I thought at the hospital, they would conduct a urine test. And in the hospital, before doing any urine test, they checked if it was not a torso of my testicle. And I was just like, that's good work. That's good job. Yes. First of all, check if it's not a torso of your testicle. It was not, but at least they did this. And then they did a urine test. And they did the urine test. They kept me for a night. And the following day, they came back to me and they said, yes, you have acute epididymitis. Oh, so suddenly I said, I've done my job. It's good. I went for a second opinion. They did the work. I have acute. This time is acute epididymitis. So he said, you stop your 10 days and we give you 14 days of the same drug. So 6 plus 14, 20 days. So in total, I took 20 days of 500 milligrams of levofloxacin, which makes 10,000 milligrams of pure poison in my body. I took it really there, convinced I was doing the right thing. I had gone to hospital. They did a urine test. They must have seen the bacteria. Well, actually, months later, I went back. I wanted the result of that test. I have it here. It says that at the time it was all normal. It was all normal. They concluded that after 6 days of taking levofloxacin, they couldn't see it, but maybe it was still there. Yeah, well, why do you say acute epididymitis if you can't even see anything? So they say, the first doctor and the second doctor in the hospital, they say basically, they don't do a test because so often they can't see the bacteria when they do a urine test.
Yeah,
what can you argue?
They almost use antibiotics as a means of ruling out other causes, it's like the first thing you do. It's, okay, let me give him antibiotics. If it doesn't resolve, ooh, it must not be bacterial. And then let's do further investigation. As you said, it's the laziest form of practicing medicine that there is. Because practicing medicine properly, truly, okay, it's not like that. It takes elegance, it takes thought. It's almost an art. And when you treat it in such a crude way, when you treat the human body in such a crude manner, it's not surprising that people get hurt in this manner. It's not. People need to understand that. I mean, your example really makes the perfect point here. You can't just trust these people. You can't, because they're not doing their job. They're not being professionals at all. And unfortunately, when it comes to this specific job, where you're not being a professional, it costs people their lives.
This is a very important point, because I'm a teacher. If in the last year of high school, we have the final exam of secondary school, and I teach something totally wrong, well, you know what? I'm going to be fired. I'm going to be accountable to what I'm doing. Every profession needs to be accountable for what they're doing. If I teach the wrong syllabus, or if I teach something totally wrong, and all my pupils, they get failed, they, rightly so, will turn against me. But guess what? They can still repeat the year and fire me, and they will just have wasted 1 year and it's one subject, so maybe in the end they will be fine. But there, obviously, as we all understand, we are talking about the most precious element of our life, which is health. Health and health. Wealth without health, what's the point? You can give me $1 billion. What do I care? What do I care?
If you have one body in this life to carry you as a vessel throughout everything you do and conduct yourself with, and if that is compromised, if that is damaged to a severe extent, that's it. You just cannot express yourself in this existence anymore properly.
I told the bastard that did this to me, sorry for the word, I told him several times, you murdered me. Okay, it's not premeditated. You didn't know. I understand that. But ignorance is not an excuse. You should have known. You should have known, because it takes 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes nowadays in November 2016. Everything was there. And I proved it. I proved it so much, by the way, that I got reports from doctors. I got reports from toxicologists, an expert that agreed to make a report for me, very long report. I went to see a lawyer. I found a lawyer. And basically, to make a long story short, I threatened this doctor of going to court. But we all know that going to court is very, very long and very difficult. And I was taking the risk of really having to pay something like 200,000 euros if I lost. And there were good chances that I would lose the trial, because the doctor would always just protect himself, being, I'm just giving a drug that is legal. It's legal. It's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. So I knew that I would have 9 chances out of 10 to lose. So I just threatened him with a lawyer, with the expert. I have all those documents, but I can share my screen in a bit. But in the end, his insurance accepted to pay a little something that I would just let go, that I would not go and see the media and put his name there. And, I felt bad, but I just thought, okay, I'm going to accept it. One, it will actually refund everything I spent to try and get better, and didn't work. That's another chapter about recovery. But I spent quite a lot to try and get better, and it didn't work. Nada, nothing, peanuts, yet. And I just wanted to refund, also pay the lawyer, pay the expert. And then, I can say that fluoroquinolone has made me 20,000 euros richer than I was before being floxed. I don't really care. Of course, it's nothing. It's really nothing. But at least what I can say now is my message here during this interview with you is that not only you're not crazy, not only the doctors, they should know, but you can do, like me and like other people, you can put pressure on the doctor that did this to you, and you should not let go until you get acknowledged and recognized and at least compensated a little bit. Because the compensation, we don't care about the money, is for your being, for your psychology, for the people around you, for your friends, for your family, because some people have problems to believe what you are saying.
Yeah.
Luckily, my family, my wife, after 3-4 months of not really understanding, they understood, because maybe I explained myself clearly. But I even had pupils, because I also spoke about this to my pupils, who did like a kind of a petition. I cannot tell you how many lives I've saved, like people who have come back to me and say, you know what, they wanted to give me this drug, I didn't take it.
Yeah.
And every time someone will come back to me and say this, I'm just like, well, at least I'm not suffering totally for nothing,
I can relate to that to some degree. What happened to me after, exposing myself and talking to a lot of people about it, certain individuals contacted me afterwards and said, thanked me profoundly for sharing this, because they were about to take it and they made a better choice. Another thing to stress out is, taking legal action. People need to understand also that once you get hurt by these compounds, and I mean hurt badly by these compounds, sometimes it's impossible to even function at the basic level. And so seeking legal compensation can be almost an impossibility for people that are so devastatingly destroyed by these drugs. And and the result is, right, when you get to the point where you get really hurt by a pharmaceutical and, you see an avenue to pursue legal action, it's probably really bad damage. And you're probably in a state, of mind and body that doing these things is just requires tremendous amount of resolve. And so because of that, I think many people don't even try that, and doctors just get a free pass. That's why I think also they are so easy on the trigger finger when it comes to giving these compounds, because they feel safe. They feel safe. They know that they can prescribe whatever they want, and whatever happens to you, it doesn't even matter if you die. They are going to walk free and without a problem, unlike other professions. And this lack of fear that these professionals have is, I think, a primary factor in instigating this catastrophe. Because if there's no repercussions to the people that are just damaging people all over the world every day by these medications, there's nothing to keep them in check. That's a problem. That's a huge problem.
They are just not accountable, and we need to make those doctors accountable. We need to make them accountable. I absolutely agree with you on everything. And just to say that, I also acknowledge that I am, I'm very destroyed, but I am still walking, and I can still go for a walk. I can still work because I'm a teacher and not a manual worker, or I don't know, many jobs. I can still do it because, and actually it's my lifeline, it saves me. So, in that regard, yes, of course, I am lucky. I'm lucky I'm not in a wheelchair. You must be, you must hear this very often from people who are not in a wheelchair, because we know, we have so many examples of people who are in a wheelchair. They can't walk, they can't talk, they have massive anxiety, they live in a state of terror, they can't sleep at all for months, 2 hours a night for years. I mean, just that alone, a drug that steals your sleep. I couldn't sleep for months, and I could only sleep maybe for 2-3 hours. Today, my sleep won't recover. Of course, my sleep is like I wake up every 2-3 hours, and my sleep is not good quality. It's very vivid. You don't feel that you're sleeping fully, but at least I'm sleeping and I can function. I know that it might shorten my lifespan maybe by 10-20 years, maybe not, I don't know. Who cares? Now I'm in pain. This is a new chapter of my life. As I said, on my grave, I want it to be written November 2016, because then I die. Then I try to be like the phoenix. I try to resuscitate. I want to try and be like Jesus. But you know what? We try what we can, one day at a time. Now, I want to dedicate my life and my energy to try, like you are doing, to try and put those fluoroquinolones out of there and actually do more for drugs in general, because we need to change the paradigm.
That's the important thing here, to change the paradigm of how these things are working, because if the paradigm stays as it is, it's just going to be another drug and another drug and another drug. Because I watched a nice documentary recently. I recommend people to see it, Attacking the Devil. It's about the thalidomide scandal. You would have assumed that lessons would have been learned, that things would have changed since that so many decades ago. But unfortunately, it just continues to happen. It's just a different drug and different type of damage. But it's just an never-ending vicious cycle, and something needs to change. And I just wanted to stress on another point you made about being, saying that I died and on that fateful day and my doctor murdered me. This is something I want people who are tuning in that may have not been hurt by these drugs to try to comprehend that the level of damage that you can experience just by taking a simple prescription is so profound that you don't even recognize yourself anymore, that you have changed completely at the cellular level, at the genetic level, in every cell in your body. The person that you were before is forever gone, is forever lost. And that's a heavy thing to say, but that's the truth, isn't it?
They put a neurotoxic, a genotoxic, and a cytotoxic drug in my body. Can you believe this? It's all down to neurotoxic, genotoxic, and cytotoxic. And, the EMA has said we need to remove all the drug with nalidixic acid. What is in fluoroquinolones? What is the problem with fluoroquinolones? Basically, it's nalidixic acid. This is lethal to anything alive, to any kind of living cells. Is lethal. So when they actually say at the end of their public hearing, our conclusion is that we need to remove all drugs with nalidixic acid, but we keep this and this and this fluoroquinolones. They are basically saying, we have made the decision of removing all vehicles on 4 wheels except BMW, Mercedes, or Renault, or whatever. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're saying one thing and you're actually acting in the opposite. So even a year 7 at school, 11 years old, 12 years old, would see there's something not logical in saying that nalidixic acid is very, very dangerous and still keeping those drugs on the market. And I know it's for last resort, but then make it sure it's used for last resort. That means it's only in hospital settings and after maybe, 2 doctors validation, something like this. But it cannot be given by any kind of doctor, a GP, a urologist that you see for 5 minutes and is going to destroy you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, if you do that, so you ask yourself, wait, what you're saying right now seems very logical, right? Something very logical that if it would have been implemented, right, the amount, the scope of people that are being floxed would be diminished tremendously. But it's not happening. Why? Well, because of this, because of money, because of profit. That's the reason why it's not happening. And that's the reason why it's still going on for over 4 decades. That's just it. Yeah, I'd like it if you can please, take me back to the experience. You said after 5 days you started feeling off.
Yes.
So take me back through all of it. What happened, how the symptoms manifested, how they progressed, and also, what was going on through your head at the time when this was happening to you.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I can tell you here, it's unbelievably strong. Okay, the body is weak, but here, we're not going to be scared by anything at all now. I have nothing else to lose. What are you going to take? So I took the drug for 20 days, didn't feel any problem whatsoever. And then I remember towards the end, or even after, a few days after, I went to run 16 or 18 kilometers. And I pushed, I did my 18 kilometers in 1 hour, 30 minutes. I was, I'm there, it's good. But, felt a little bit tired in the evening. Usually I don't feel tired like this. And the following morning, I felt my tendons, Achilles tendons were terrible. And I was just like, what's happening? You know, I'm getting old. What is that? So I had a Achilles tendons problem. And then it went away. And then I had the groin stabbing pain so bad that sometimes I had to stop walking because it was just like a knife, and someone was stabbing me in the groin. So I had to stop. I was just like, something is really, really odd. I'm still not understanding what's happening. You know, I'm just like, okay, so something is really odd. And then I was starting to, in December, gradually I was more and more tired. Something is wrong. And then Christmas, New Year's, still okay, no problem. And then maybe 10 days into January, so it pushes maybe like 2 months after taking the drug, maybe 6 weeks after taking the drug, suddenly couldn't sleep, muscle pain, burning pain. I mean, I was literally shaking in my bed. I just had no words for what happened there. But straight away, I said, something is wrong. I put my symptoms, and then it came up with fibromyalgia. And we need to talk about fibromyalgia. But then I did more research, and then I saw fibromyalgia or fluoroquinolone. And then I just like, what is a fluoroquinolone? What did I take in November? Levofloxacin. Is levofloxacin a fluoroquinolone? Oh, but yes, it is a fluoroquinolone. So I understood, not straight away, as you can see, but when I had all those symptoms coming up, it took me 3 days to connect. And I said, this is it. And guess what? At work, I talked about it, and my head of department said, I have a friend. She has a friend that happened to her, a drug like you. And then I was put in contact with this other person in South Africa. And then she explained everything, and it was the first flox person. I don't want to say floxy because floxy sounds like too good, too happy. We are poison, we are flox. We are not floxies. No. We are floxed and we are poison. Poison is the right word. Poison, because it is. It's not a disease. I'm not sick. I'm actually not sick. You know, I like to think like this, that I'm not sick, but I'm poisoned. I know that, but I don't have any disease. This is why they won't find any disease, because I have a nervous system disease, yes, or poisoning. And then, you know, she introduced me to Floxy Hope, and then this is it. You know, I was then on the different forum. And then I was horrified, and I just thought I would be in a wheelchair in a matter of weeks. And then I could read those people were saying, you know, we don't get hit the same way. But I was just like, I took 20 days, you know, I see people with 3-4 pills, you know, totally destroyed. I took 3 weeks of it. And I just thought that I would be very quickly in a wheelchair, but I couldn't be able to walk. And then I went through hell of not sleeping, of pain, of neuropathy, progressively coming on deeper, burning, quite horrible. And it's only at the 7 months that I really became like a statue. I became like concrete. 7 months of the one night. The following morning, I was hard like a statue everywhere, in every muscle of my body. And I had been warned, you know, 7-8 months. The cellular replication, that's more or less what it takes. So you can really expect the worst around 7, 8, 9, 10 months, explaining why, of course, so many people do not connect the dots. Because if I had nothing until the 7 months, I'm not sure I would have connected the dots. So I would say the symptoms got worse over the first 2 years. Knees were terrible. At one point, I couldn't really go down the stairs. It was really painful. You know, as someone else before me said, you know, your brain tries to forget about those things, you know, because it's just so horrendous that the brain is very good at trying to survive. And if you stay in this horror, because believe me, I am not ashamed to say that this is genocide level. The level of torture. I mean, where is Geneva Accords? Where we need to call the Geneva Accords. This is a human rights crime. It's a crime against humanity. It's just a crime against humanity to put people in that level of pain. It is. It just is a crime against humanity. This is what it is. And I would say that now, maybe next week I will have more problems. Maybe in 6 months I will have more problems. I don't know. I just don't know. And you try and learn how to live with that. All I can say is that 3.5 years out, I have muscle pain throughout. The worst being the shoulders, being the upper arms, being the upper back, the middle back, the lower back, the spine. All of this is neuromuscular damage, pain. You know, I did MRIs, all of this, nothing will show, but it is at the cellular level, and it is neuromuscular damage. People need to understand, because I really thought about this a lot. What those drugs do is nerve damage, okay? It's nerve damage. And this cannot be seen on any test. And you can even do a skin biopsy for small fiber neuropathy, but the neuropathy that we have is small fiber neuropathy. But even then, most of the time, it will not show up on the biopsy. It is so microscopic that it won't even show up, but it is there.
You know, the thing is, right, I mean, these damages are not being thoroughly investigated. And pathologists that are supposed to be the ones looking at the slides and, you know, analyzing the tissue are also not properly trained to investigate any tissue changes that result from exposure to pharmaceuticals. I can tell you that pathology was my love, specifically going through medical school. And I've read through, you know, really heavy textbooks, and that is mentioned even briefly. So even the same people that you send your biopsies or your, you know, if people would sample their tissues, you know, and send them for analysis, they wouldn't know what to look for, because this is not properly, yeah, the FDA has the label, fine. But the paradigm of the medical system, the medical schools, the education, it's still cemented in the same place. That didn't change. That doesn't change. It's so rigid, it won't change. So new medical students coming up now in 2020, I can tell you people in my school, they're studying pathology right now, for example, or pathophysiology, learning about the origin of disease, how it happens, etiology, pathogenesis, all that. This is not being discussed in medical school at all. At all. None of it is. And if anybody here listening is encountering a doctor who tells them, oh yeah, we learned about these things. Oh yeah, we know. It's kind of like the same thing that people hear about vaccines a lot. And I'm just going to mention this kind of quickly when doctors say, oh, you know, trust us. We know what we're talking about. We went to medical school. We were educated about it. Let me tell you people, we are not. Okay. We are not being educated about this at all whatsoever. So obviously these tests, first of all, they're not formed properly to take up this information. You can't analyze this information because there's no tests that are suited for that. So yeah, and then the best diagnosis that they can give you, this cop-out diagnosis, and I'm not saying that fibromyalgia is not a real condition, but I believe that I can't give you a statistics, but in my opinion, 90-something% of the cases that are being diagnosed as fibromyalgia are just iatrogenic injuries. And this is the cop-out diagnosis that every single person who gets hurt, you know, receives. I also received fibromyalgia diagnosis, and then, you know, when I wasn't satisfied and I felt like my body was falling apart, and what we talked about, the cell turnover, that it takes several months for the delayed toxicity to become manifest and apparent, I was getting worse. And so eventually you're rooted into the psychiatric avenue. And that's just all too common. That's something that happens, and with me as well. And they told me that I have psychosomatic delusional disorder, that I need to take SSRIs, this, that. And it's just, I still, to this day, 2 years after getting damaged, have received zero acknowledgement from any medical professional, because, you know, that's just the way it is. Even my own family to this day really doubts what happened. So, yeah.
It's incredible that people in your family, not yours, but so many flux and poison people have said, you know, my loved ones, they don't believe me. How come? You know, it says a lot about the healthcare, but it also says a lot about the selfishness of people and the mistrust. How come we don't trust the people we love and people we live with? People don't change just like this in a matter of days or weeks. I have to say, did not show the best side of human beings, that's for sure. That's very clear.
I think the problem is people today lost a sense of agency, and they also put, you know, it's like the government has become our mothers and fathers, and whatever the government says and you know, whatever these big sources of information tell us, these official sources. That's the truth. And people don't want to face the fact that this very scary and terrifying fact that the people in charge, they're not out there for your own benefit. They're not out there for you. And you just cannot trust them at all. And it's a terrifying thought, right? It's a terrifying thought that goes on when you realize this realization that you just cannot trust any official sources, the WHO, the FDA, the CDC, your own governmental health administration. You just can't trust these people. And I think it's something that, it kind of brings people into conflict with this reality, and they don't want to face it. So it's easier to just deny and pretend like, everything is okay. That's just the way I see it. I think people are just really strongly indoctrinated. I think the educational system as a whole, is, at least from my experience in the country I was raised up in Israel, is really compromised. It's really brainwashing. It's just teaching people how to become cogs in the machine later on when they become adults, and not to be critical thinkers, not to think for themselves. Creativity, individuality, these things are being crushed. And when everybody just becomes a drone, people can't think for themselves. And if the doctor said, because what are you taught in school, right? Doctors, as a kid, right? They're angels in white cloaks. They're there to heal you. They're saviors. They're the most amazing people. And now look at the esteem that they've obtained from this coronavirus pandemic. Now doctors are heroes, and they're just out there sacrificing themselves, saving lives and all that. And this is pumped into you all the time. And what they should teach you in high school, in elementary school even, is to be vigilant, to not trust someone just because of their title. Just because he has an MD, it doesn't mean that he's all-knowing. And you can just, do whatever you want to me, doctor. I trust you completely and wholeheartedly. They don't deserve that trust. They don't. Because the end result is they destroy so many lives all the time. And iatrogenesis right now is the third leading cause of injury and death worldwide.
I mean, I can just quote Dr. Shiva recently in the United States. He's trying to speak against what's happening regarding the coronavirus. We have 200,000 people in the United States dying from drugs, and 450 were injured. So we're talking about 650,000 a year people. At least, because that's just the acknowledged numbers.
Yeah, a lot of them are not acknowledged. I think this figure is a minimalization of the actual truth. I would say from other things I've read, other sources, we can talk about 700, up to 700,000 people dying and over 1 million being injured. And this is on an annual basis.
Even if we remain conservative on those figures, and we take Dr. Shiva's figure there of 650,000 either dying or damaged by those drugs, it becomes the #1 killer in the United States before cancer and heart issues. Knowing that, as we know, heart issues, cancer can also be, of course, caused by the same drugs, by the pharmaceutical drugs. So those drugs they kill more people than other drugs, than other disease, sorry. But on top of that, #2, #3 disease are actually very often caused by #1, the drugs. So anyway, can I just share with you a document, several documents that just proves what I'm saying? And I want to give energy, I want to give momentum to people out there that they are not alone, we are not alone, and we can do more. So I click on share screen, and just this is to, for instance, show you that the doctor that prescribed me accepted to report me to the health department in Hong Kong. So update of adverse drug reaction reports. As you can see, we have acute tendinopathy, fibromyalgia, meaning pain in the muscle. He meant it like this, pain in the muscle, polyneuropathy, chronic low back pain. Well, now it's the entire back. It's just getting worse. The back is getting My calves are just insane. They're just locked in pain. It's all neuromuscular. So I think the muscle are okay. It's just that the nerves in the muscle are not responding anymore. They have been damaged. I did a test of mitochondria, by the way, and we saw 35%, and then 6 months later, 30% of mitochondria destroyed. So I have a test done in the UK in a special lab showing the mitochondria damage. But at the end of the day, I'm not even so sure that this test, maybe today I'm on 20% or 10%, but my nerve damage is still there. So I'm not so sure. But as you can see, for the knees and things like this, then I can show you that I've been diagnosed for fluoroquinolone toxicity. And this is a doctor that has accepted to give me the certificate saying that I should not be given all those drugs. So fluoroquinolones, obviously, any quinolones, including mefloquine or Lariam, that's another topic. All the soldiers, veterans can testify that mefloquine is a killer, especially for your brain. NSAIDs, because NSAIDs don't fare well with fluoroquinolones even months or years later. Corticosteroids, never do steroids after being floxed. But I know people who, they were feeling better 11 years after taking fluoroquinolones. They took one shot of steroids. They were back to the worst. Any kind of anesthetic and fluoridated drugs. This is basically the list of what I'm dealing with. Neuromuscular aches and pains, stiff calves, polyneuropathy, joint pain in all the joints, severe back pain, yes, very severe, crushing back pain, should I say, poor sleep, chest pain. And I know I'm lucky I'm still functioning. This is the report from the expert, from a toxicologist. And so to go quickly, he is telling the story that I told you, and he explains the history of fluoroquinolone toxicity, all the black box warnings, and he explains why the doctor, all the mistakes that this doctor made, not asking the proper question, not doing a urine test, not warning me about some risk of this antibiotic, especially for sporty people. The choice of levofloxacin for treating the suspected is debatable, yes. It should not be given for an uncomplicated urinary tract infection. Well, I had epididymitis, but it is very close to a urinary tract infection. So basically, any harm resulted, yes, all the problems I've just stated. And so basically, you see here, responsibility of causing the harm. He should have actually already done the exclusion of torsion of testis. He should have done a urine test. He should have warned me about the possible risk. And after also, he gave me arcoxia, which creates a much bigger risk of reaction with fluoroquinolones. About arcoxia, by the way, I was very, I followed my guts there. I took only one arcoxia. So I can't even blame the super NSAID on the damage. It is levofloxacin all by itself that caused all this damage, because just thought that, why does he give me the arcoxia? Oh, it's to feel less pain. Well, I'm okay. It's not, the pain was not so horrible from my testicle. So I just said to myself, I don't need to take the NSAID. It's a bit toxic. I don't need that. So I will just take the antibiotic because this is what I need to kill the infection. So I don't have a choice, so I will take it. Just to finish here, the conclusion is, as FQAD has no known cure and the patient is now in chronic pain and suffering with major disability, it is reasonable in human and legal ground to compensate the patient in financial terms to help him to live a life comparable to that before the FQAD incidents for the rest of his life or till he recovers, which is, in my opinion, after all his reading, very unlikely, which leads us to the chapter of recovery. But I think it's very clear, 3.5 years later, I have not recovered. And I have a colleague, he took half the dose 10 years ago, and he still has the same pain as me. And he really connected the dots with what happened to me. He said, yes, I took this drug, and this is after taking this drug that my problems happened. So this colleague was floxed. He didn't really know. I had another friend who had been floxed. She's feeling much better after 7 years, but she has been in horrendous pain. But she's feeling better, and she's resuming tango after 8 years of horrible pain. And what she says is that being a Buddhist saved her life because she accepted pain and suffering as part of life. But I told her, come on, this level of pain is just unacceptable and unbearable. And I totally understand why some people who commit suicide, because it's not suicide, it is a homemade euthanasia, because it's people who had no psychological problem, they were happy, they had no problem, but they just cannot take the pain anymore. And for all those people who died, because I can't say they committed suicide, but just couldn't take it anymore. You are doing what you're doing, I'm doing what I'm doing, and many other people are trying to speak up.
Yeah, this is a good point that you mentioned. Unfortunately, a very sad point that so many people are just forced to take their lives because, when the damage. So let me ask you first of all, cognitively, how are you? Were you affected cognitively? Was your cognition reduced, damaged?
I'm lucky on that aspect. As I said, only maybe 2-3 weeks of some anxiety episode, but not even major. I just remember in February 2017, so that's like 3 months after taking the drug, I was in a bank, I was in a post office, and I had to go out. But really, I'm very lucky. And I remember someone who told me this. I said, I would take your muscle pain and your tendon pain, but not instead of the anxiety and the state of terror I'm living in. It was another flux.
I can understand that because, when so much is taken from you, also your body, let's say, okay, well, I'm stuck in a wheelchair. Okay, what now? Well, does this still work? Well, if this still works, let's say I can still work, I can still function. But the problem is so many people that get hurt by these drugs have just tremendous issues with cognition, with mentation, with higher functional processes in the brain. And the brain is damaged. That's just to put it simply. And they just can't function anymore. Their memory is fried. They cannot perform anymore at work. They find themselves unemployed. They find themselves in a situation where they depend solely on disability, which is in most cases nothing to live by off. And they lose everything and they can't do anything about that. So when you find yourself in a position where, well, I can't depend on my body anymore, I can't work physical labor whatsoever, I can't depend on my brain anymore because I feel like I've been lobotomized or just, I don't know, like I've suffered a severe traumatic brain injury and I just am non-functional, I can't take care of myself anymore. What do you do? And so these people are, a lot of times, they find themselves in an impossible situation. How do you go on like that? Is it just a matter of will and fortitude and strength? I would argue no. These drugs, a lot of times, I would say that a big portion of their deaths is not direct killing by exposure, but secondary death as a result of someone resorting to taking their own life because they just cannot live anymore like this, which is just the reality.
The few moments where for those 2-3 weeks I had this a bit of anxiety thing, I just felt that would be horrible to be like this. So I can only understand the hell that people who have anxiety or mental, I don't like to say this word because it's nothing, but anyway, nervous system damage, central nervous system damage to the point that they feel in this terror and anxiety. I am extremely sorry for them. On the contrary, there I can take I can drink coffee once a day in the morning a bit, and I look at the trees around me, the sunshine, and I am in love with nature more than ever. I didn't need fluoroquinolones to be happy and to be connected with nature and to like simple things. I didn't need fluoroquinolones to become connected to simple things. But now, anyway, I really don't have a choice. So you reinforce what is beautiful in the world and beautiful in your life. So I will love my wife even more, and I will love the birds even more, and I will love the sunshine even more. Not too much because you can't stay for too long, but I will take my vitamin D3. and I will love my pupils even more, and I will teach with all my heart. Of course, you know, and luckily my memory is still very okay, because you know, I teach history and geography, so that would not be good. But I just get up in the morning and say, well, the trade is I am in pain, but I have to try and do something meaningful, and that is my trade in life every day. As I try to do something meaningful for me, for my wife, for other people, and that's it.
I completely understand. Look, it's a matter of what do you do now, right? How do you like, so when this happens to you, your life is just broken apart. You are broken to pieces and you're left to pick them up a lot of times on your own. And you have to somehow find something to motivate you to keep going forward. And if you don't find that, you're gonna stay lost. And a lot of people need to reinvent themselves. You know, they have to. You have to adapt somehow to keep going. And so for me, for example, my partner is also damaged by pharmaceuticals, and I always tell her sometimes, you know, give me your joint pain, your other issues. I want your brain, because my brain has been so compromised by what happened to me. My memory, my cognition, my thoughts, I can't hold a train of thought properly, everything, and my eyes. So I wanted to be a pathologist. That was like my goal, years of you know, studying and working hard and putting everything I had into it, and I can't, because my eyes are completely damaged and my brain is just not what it was. So I have to change. I have to try to do something else. And your approach is, I think, the only way to survive, applying that.
Yes.
What have you tried to do after you realize what happened to you, after you realize the truth, the full extent of the damage? What did you try to do to recover?
You know, maybe not enough, because some people they went to the United States, and then they went to see Doctor. I don't want to say the name, but there's a couple of doctors, Dr. Galili, Dr. Hansen. I'm sure they are great. So Dr. Hansen looks to be a wonderful man. It's just that it seems that it is story from people who are in a wheelchair, and then they are slightly better. Some are better, but I really feel that the damage that I have, there is no drug that they can give me. And I'm pretty sure that they can give me 4s of glutathione or I don't know what, and it will actually create more problems. So I don't want to take the risk to have more problems. I don't want to spend this money to be in more problems. I'm glad that it works for some. I also know that it doesn't work for many. You know, people out there among flux people, you have those who really want to be 100% positive and they need this positivity. I don't want to be negative neither. I don't want to be, as you can see, I don't want to be say, you know, give up. It's you know, no, I'm not saying this. I'm just trying to tell the truth, the full picture as it is. And we are many to not recover fully, or not recover even at 60, 70 or 80%. Today, I would say I'm at least 50% because I can still function. But I would say I'm 60, 70%, but I have to go through pain every day. And it's really bad pain, you know. The back, the legs. Sometimes when I have been sitting like this for maybe now 2 hours, then to stand up, even after half an hour, to stand up is like going through a wall of concrete, you know. So to try and recover, I took basic supplements. The only supplements that work for neuropathy is called PEA. So please look up for neuropathy, for nerve pain, PEA. It's natural, it's not toxic, and it works. The last thing you want to do, of course, is to take gabapentin, to take Lyrica, to take OxyContin, because there you are taking one more pharmaceutical, you are, you know, going for more problems, and on top of that, you are feeding the same hand that actually destroyed your life. So no way, not over my dead body, that they will give me one more drug. That is out of the question.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of people, they go through polydrugging, right? So yes, they take these different medications to try to feel better, and then they get injured by these medications. And a lot of times, also, this is important to mention here. You know, when you have these nervous issues, this neuropathic pain or cognitive problems, you know, they want to see what's going on, right? So a lot of times MRIs are issued. And the problem with that is that a lot of times, without your consent whatsoever, they will just, you know, sign you up for a contrast-enhanced MRI with gadolinium, which is another extremely toxic heavy metal that destroys people just after one-time exposure. And then people just, you know, they don't even know anymore what hurt them because they get more and more and more drugs and more procedures that just keep on destroying them. So people need to take caution, I think, when they try to help, you know, try to resolve their problems by using the medical approach, the same approach that got them there in the first place. They should really, really be judicious with, you know, what they choose to do, because they can find themselves often worse off than they started.
Is a good advice I was given too late. Never thought about it, but if there is a forum, I mean a Facebook group, a forum of people injured by a drug, then it's there for a reason. You know, most people are not faking it. So, you know, if I checked a bit more, that's my only regret. However, to stop whipping myself with this regret, I was that close to find out, but never mind. I just thought it was just an antibiotic. I had an infection, apparently, and then that's it, you know. I say apparently because, as I said, in the test it was normal, but maybe it appeared normal and I still had the bacteria, as they say. And also it was done 6 days after starting the levofloxacin. I just would like to say, maybe to more or less finish, is that the pain is so, you can't describe this pain because it's not natural. And I think this is something very important for people to understand. It is not natural, meaning that, you know, I dislocated my shoulder. I remember I was in the north of Uganda. I was with my dislocated shoulder very badly, just in front of me like this for 16 hours. The pain was really bad. I knew they would put my shoulder back. I knew that 4 months, 6 months later, the body will rebuild itself because the body has this incredible power. But there we're talking about toxicity. We are talking about something not natural. And this is why the body is trying all its best to get better. But it is beyond a certain limit. It can't. It just can't. And he will try. He will try. And I still, of course, every day, I still hope that next year or in 5 years or in 10 years, I will have less pain. Of course, I still hope. But, you know, hope sometimes just kill you. And you also have to learn how to live with your new normal, new abnormal, new body, and to try and keep working. As an historian, I wanted to work on, this is quite extraordinary, because I wanted to work on the genocide in Rwanda. I lived in Uganda. I wanted to understand about human suffering. Well, now, you know, I'm not shy to say that this time, if I have to meet, because when I was there, I talked with survivors from the genocide. Well, somehow I feel now that I am part of them. I am totally part of them. I would sit next to them and I would say, you told me your story, I'm going to tell you my story. And we are brothers as survivors of a genocide. And I think this is a very important thing to keep in mind. This pain, which is so abnormal, is so crushing sometimes, so crushing. Yes.
What would be your message to doctors, physicians, healthcare professionals that are watching this video right now? What would you want them to take out of it?
Do you think we make those t-shirts for nothing? People all around the world that don't know each other tell you the same story. It's all there. The truth is all there. This is a farce. When you think about it, this is a farce. It takes 3 minutes to see it on the internet. It's all there. It's absolutely acknowledged, recognized, FDA, EMA. Doctors tell you that, oh, yeah, we know. But when it happens to someone they gave the prescription drug, they don't want to know. So my message is time for you to wake up, because we won't forget. And you know what? You didn't kill me. You killed my body, but you didn't kill my spirit. You didn't kill my soul. And I'm going after you. That's all I want to say. I went after you and I pushed you to give me a small compensation. But that's done. This doctor apologized. By the way, I was in a room with his lawyer, my lawyers, and I looked at him in the eye and said, why did you give me this drug? Why? What is your reasoning? And he looked down and he said, at the time I wanted to punch him. He said, I don't know. And actually I realized that was the best answer. In front of his lawyers and my lawyers, he said, I don't know. And this man will always remember. And he's not a bad guy. On top of that, I didn't end on a bad guy. I know one of my friends, he really had a bad guy, because after a few days, he sent an email to his doctor, to the doctor that gave him the ciprofloxacin, and said, "Oh, I'm suffering of this and that." And the guy, you know what he replied? The doctor replied, he said, "Oh yeah, of course, it's a fluoroquinolone and it can cause this and this and this." Believe me, my friend sometimes he really, really hates this doctor, because this doctor apparently, according to his reply in his email, he knew what he was doing. He knew that they were a risk. At least mine, really, sincerely, I could see that, had no clue. But still, ignorance is not an excuse. And my message is, doctors, we are waking up, and governments, we are waking up. It's a bit of a shame that we have to wait until being damaged by those drugs. It seems that only people who have been damaged wake up and want to do something about it. My message is that non-poison, non-floxed people, you are on the same boat as us. You are on the same boat as us. There is a bottle somewhere with your name on a prescription of fluoroquinolones waiting for you. And if you dodge it, if you dodge the bullet, if you avoid it, it's just a question of luck. But believe me, if you go and see a urologist at one point, there's at least 50 to 60% chance that he gives you a fluoroquinolone. And then the percentage of damage, well, no studies have been conducted. But for what we can see, it's anything from 10 to 20 or more % of people who are damaged. And as you said before, it's a cumulative damage. So you can have taken it maybe for 1 course, 2 course, 3 course, and then suddenly, voila, it explodes. For me, it exploded on the first course, or maybe they gave it to me in a surgery, because I remember some years ago I had an inguinal hernia. You know, I was at the gym, pushing up, and I had an inguinal hernia, and they did a laparoscopic repair. Maybe they used some there. I don't know. I didn't ask, but that's it.
What would be your message to people that have been harmed, victims of these drugs? Should they come up here? Should they speak? Should they come out of the closet and tell their truth?
Well, if you don't do it, who else is going to do it? Seriously, if we don't take our courage, even if you're super damaged, you do it. You put yourself there. Look, I'm not damaged enough, apparently. People won't believe me. If you're more damaged than me, come out, do it, say it, find this energy. We all need each other to put this out. Look, we managed to be on mainstream media in Belgium, on TV5 Monde, for French media. The same in the United States. You have more and more states, you know, in San Diego, in Florida. So there's more and more out there. We are that close to put it through on fluoroquinolones, at least on fluoroquinolones. So my message is that we are all on the same boat, poison or not poison, and we just have to fight for this. I wish someone had done what you are doing and what I'm doing at the moment long before.
Me too, because I wouldn't be in this position right now. Because when I looked, I just couldn't find any, video testimonials that talked about any of this happening. So I had no idea. Robin, I want to thank you so much for coming up here and for speaking your truth, for finding the courage and will to do this. It means the world to me, and I think to anybody else who has been harmed. And hopefully, this message will reach a lot of people. Thank you so much for